I could just add to that very briefly, and I agree with everything my colleagues have said. It also, though, requires local leaders to take a good hard look at what they're offering today. So on one hand, absolutely on the assessment side, it requires the system to evaluate what its job is. Is it the job of local districts to have to develop formative assessments that are very timely and they might not have the capacity to do? Or is it the job of states to choose good questions from an item bank and put it up vis-a-vis technology so that locals can benefit? Same thing with the construction of data systems, these longitudinal student and teacher level data systems. To have the capacity and the money to do it in every single district is ominous at best. The state has a really important role, as do the feds, to facilitate that along the way. In the locals, though, they're having to look at what they're offering today, and rather than adding on, which is pre-budget times, that's what we often did, let's just pile on new stuff. We don't look at time, though, we'll pile on new stuff within the confines of 6 hours a day, 180 days a year. These days, they're having to go much deeper. They're having to look at the teacher of the Career with Child 1 and 2 course. They're looking at both whether those courses are preparing students for a career with a child 1 and 2. They're also looking at the $95,000 teacher, because she and he have been in the system for so long, and is that the best use of their resources? Would technology, of course, that we are finding kids are actually getting math credit for, but the math department didn't know about it. So it's requiring a conversation with these career tech teachers that are extraordinarily expensive, that have been in the system for a really long time, and finding ways to pair those courses with the academic core. In so doing, you're saving money, you're avoiding duplication, and you're actually making sure that with technology course that's getting math credit might deserve some math credit along the way.
Let me get 2 more questions. And so what I'd like to do is have those 2 questions. I'll have you answer questions one after another, and then we'll have the panelists respond. So we'll go to Jamie and to Suzanne.
Good morning, I'm Jamie Passman with the Alliance for Excellent Education. And my question is actually about standards and multiple pathways. There are some very positive conversations happening nationally and some very federally on standards, as well as on multiple pathways as a strategy towards college and readiness and high school improvement. Given the concerns about actual access to the content that provides for college and work readiness, I'm curious what strategies we can employ at the federal level as we support standards-based reform, as well as multiple pathways, to ensure that that content is truly there for all students and it doesn't become more of a tracking mechanism.
Okay. Suzanne?
My question is Suzanne Burry from National Urban League. Joel, you talked about 13 intermediary partners that work with early college high schools. Could you explain a little bit more about what this means, who they are, what they do, and how that can be helpful and how it can be expanded?
Okay, so the first question was, what kind of strategies might we employ from the federal level that will better ensure the kinds of course content that we're talking about, that we think is so essential? Everyone? Anyone? And multiple pathways.
I'm just lead in a dangerous way. Well, we really need to consider national standards. I know that's a scary thing, but you know, we've been down the path of multiple pathways before, and we did end up with tracking systems. If we are going to truly provide multiple pathways, we this time around very much need to keep the notion of high standards real. It's not just a concept. It has to be the same standards across the way. And I think one of the ways to look at that, and this is a personal opinion, it's certainly not NCLR's yet, is to consider national standards. There are lots of different ways to consider it. It could be voluntary to begin with, but we are at a point in this country when one looks at the diversity of learners, when one looks at the economic position we're in, when one looks at what we know from a technological basis now, where we could have national standards that don't threaten local control, that work to make sure that children in this country across the board have not only access to the high standards, but actually are able to achieve standards and that are measurable, and we can talk about what an American education looks like.
This multiple pathways, I'm seeing it play out, and it is terribly scary. Yuri Treisman used to talk about the multiple lane highways into a swamp teaching algebra. I'm feeling like that's where we're going with this multiple pathways into a swamp. Unless we hold the line on the standards and you hold the line on accountability. The truth is, most kids, as we now have examined over 20,000 student transcripts in California, most kids aren't on a pathway that leads toward an end. They're taking a hodgepodge of courses that they're getting credit for, most of which are intro to accounting, intro to culinary arts, right? They're not ending in a certification. The federal government, I think, has a very important role, as Delia said, on the standards, on the assessment, but also on the making sure that anything we count as a multiple pathway really does lead toward a certification that will be transferable into the world of career.